Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into the world of international arbitration?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to unpack the journey of Garv Malhotra.
True powerhouse in the field.
Exactly. We're basically getting a master class in how to become a top international arbitrator.
All through the lens of this SuperLawyer interview.
The one that just came out on January 27th, 2025. You know what's fascinating about Malhotra?
What's that?
He's not just a lawyer.
Right.
He's an honorary professor at the National Law University in Delhi.
Shaping the next generation of legal minds. We're getting insider knowledge here.
From someone who's both practicing and teaching.
A rare combination.
And his career path, let me tell you.
It's anything but ordinary.
From advocating in India to global roles, now he's leading his own firm.
Skywards Law.
Skywards Law, yep. What I find super intriguing is how he's navigated both the Indian and Singaporean legal landscapes.
Two very different worlds.
Very different.
Understanding those nuances is key in international arbitration.
Absolutely.
It's not just knowing the law.
It's knowing the culture of how it's practiced in different regions.
Precisely. Okay, so let's trace Malhotra's journey.
Let's do it.
Starts at Gujarat National Law University in India.
Yep.
Then he goes on to get advanced degrees
Advanced degrees. Oh, yeah.
at the National University of Singapore and the Graduate Institute in Geneva.
That's some serious academic firepower.
It is. And what's even more impressive, he landed full scholarship
Full scholarships to these places.
to all these prestigious institutions. And he actually reveals his secret in the interview.
Oh, spill the tea.
He says, show you've got the skills, but also that you really need the financial help. So if you're out there, dreaming of scholarships,
Please note.
Malhotra proves it's possible.
You know what else I found interesting?
Huh.
He talks about learning from these legal giants in India, people like Soli Sorabji, Ram Jethmalani.
Wow. Big names.
But then he emphasizes that it was actually working with junior counsel.
Junior counsel.
Yeah, like Debesh and Amrita Panda that really honed his skills.
That's interesting. It highlights the value of diverse experiences.
Right.
He got exposed to both high-level strategy from senior counsel and the nitty-gritty of legal practice from the junior counsel.
Yeah, that makes sense. That foundation is probably a big reason for his success today.
Probably. And, he mentions that these two lawyers, they were actually married and working together,
Oh, wow.
but had completely different styles
Imagine getting mentored by two powerhouses.
with contrasting approaches.
Mm.
Talk about a masterclass in advocacy.
And you know what else is cool?
What?
This theme of mentorship keeps popping up. He credits his seniors with inspiring him to apply for this MIDS program in Geneva,
Mids.
which, again, full scholarship.
Like as a scholarship magnet.
He calls MIDS an unparalleled experience.
Okay.
He learned from the best, people like Gabrielle Kaufman-Kohler and Emmanuel Gaillard.
Those are giants in the field.
But what I thought was really cool was he stressed that learning from fellow students was just as valuable.
That's so true. It's like a breeding ground for future arbitration stars.
Exactly.
And then from there,
More scholarship.
more scholarships. The Hague Academy of International Law, the National University of Singapore. This guy was on a mission.
Dedicated to mastering the field.
Totally. Seeking out the best in the world to learn from.
And then here's where things get really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
He transitions from practicing law in India to snagging international roles,
International roles. Interesting. Where did he end up?
specifically at Drew and Napier LLC in Singapore.
Singapore. Was he specifically drawn there, or was it more about opportunity, do you think?
Well, it sounds like a little bit of luck and timing played a role. While he was studying at NUS, he interned with Dr. Michael Wang.
Dr. Michael Wang, the former Chief Justice of the DIFC.
That's the one. And apparently Dr. Wang suggested that he get experience with a top disputes team in Singapore.
And that led him to Drew and Napier.
You got it. Imagine that, like one piece of advice shaping your entire career.
That's pretty wild. It shows the importance of being open to new experiences and, just being in the right place at the right time.
Speaking of right place, right time, he ends up interning with Jimmy Yim, the chairman at Drew and Napier. And get this, he landed a full-time job during a lunch break at an arbitration hearing.
Hold on, what?
You heard that right.
Yeah, who does that?
He describes Jimmy Yim as one of the fiercest advocates out there, a master strategist.
So he just gets people.
He even says that watching Yim go through these complex files and pick out the key facts should be a spectator sport. Can you imagine?
Front row seats to legal brilliance.
I know, right? Talk about high praise.
It is.
He clearly learned from the best. He also mentions working under Mahesh Rai, who was, at the time, the youngest equity partner in the firm's history.
Wow. And what was he like as a mentor?
He describes Rai as incredibly efficient and a fantastic mentor.
A winning combination.
He even says that to this day, he still thinks about how Yim would argue a point or how Rai would review a draft.
That's the mark of a truly impactful mentor. It stays with you.
For sure. And then he tells this story about a case at Drew and Napier,
Okay.
where he's part of this small team representing a South Korean company, going up against an Indian PSU.
PSU.
It stands for Public Sector Undertaking, basically a large government-owned company.
Ah, I see. So David versus Goliath situation.
Kind of, yeah. And get this, the dispute was over $200 million.
Wow, that's high stakes. What was the dispute about?
He doesn't go into the specifics, but what's really interesting is how he uses this case to compare the arbitration scenes in India and Singapore. He says the law might be similar,
Yeah.
but the vibe of the practice is totally different.
That's a crucial distinction. It's like you can know the rules of a game, but each team has its own style.
Its own unspoken code.
Exactly. So what stood out to him in Singapore?
He highlights their pragmatism, efficiency, and discipline.
Yeah.
He says everyone involved in Singaporean arbitration just gets it. They're professional, dedicated.
Always mindful of the client's time and money.
And that brings up a good question. Does that laser focus on efficiency ever come at the expense of, thoroughly exploring all aspects of a case?
Right, because sometimes you need to really dig deep, even if things a bit longer.
He actually suggested that this difference might stem from how lawyers are trained in Singapore. He sees it as more rigorous than in India,
More rigorous.
both when you're starting out and through ongoing professional development. So it's like the system itself cultivates a mindset of efficiency and precision.
From day one. Interesting. So it's baked into the culture of legal practice there.
Exactly.
So after honing his skills at Drew and Napier, he takes the leap and founds his own firm.
Skyward's Law. He's leading their dispute resolution practice.
And that's a bold move. I'm curious about how he handles those complex, high-stakes cases at his own firm.
Well, he dives into this recent case involving a coal deal gone wrong, a big international transaction. They were representing a Singaporean entity. And he really emphasizes understanding the technical side of things, not just the legal stuff, but really getting into the weeds of the coal industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. In specialized fields like international trade, you got to know the ins and outs.
Right. You can't really represent a client effectively if you don't get the nuances of the industry.
For sure. So what was their strategy?
Their strategy was all about balancing the costs with the desired outcome. They opted for what's called an expedited proceeding with a sole arbitrator instead of, a 3-member tribunal.
Streamlining things, potentially saving the client a ton of money. Smart move.
And here's where it gets really interesting. They held the final hearing in Kuala Lumpur instead of Singapore.
Hold on, Kuala Lumpur. Why would they do that?
He doesn't say explicitly, but it suggests that they were thinking outside the box.
Maybe Kuala Lumpur had lower venue fees or better logistics. It's a classic example of how you got to be adaptable and creative in this field.
The bottom line is they got a favorable award for their client in under a year for way less money than they thought it would cost. And get this, they even recouped a big chunk of their legal fees in the award.
That's a win-win. Not only a successful outcome for the client, but it also shows their own efficiency and value.
Now, let's not forget, Malhotra is also super passionate about educating the next generation of lawyers. He's an honorary professor at the National Law University in Delhi.
Oh, right. And he's been teaching law for over a decade, I think he said.
He started out with some short courses on investment arbitration at his alma mater, GNLU, then expanded to NUS and NELSAR. He mentions dedicating more time to teaching after moving back to India and starting Skyward's Law.
It's clear he believes in giving back and, shaping future arbitration specialists.
For sure. He's currently teaching this really intense 55-hour seminar at NLUD, all about the practical side of international arbitration.
I bet that's fascinating. What kind of students is it for?
He's clear that it's for advanced students, the ones who already have a solid foundation in arbitration.
So he's bridging the gap between textbook knowledge and what it's actually like to work in the field.
Exactly, giving students those real-world insights that you just don't get in a typical law school class. He talks about how this role allows him to contribute to the university's vision of, creating a thriving environment for arbitration, business law. He's involved in thought leadership, pushing boundaries with his teaching, really preparing young lawyers for success.
It's inspiring to see someone so accomplished take the time to mentor and guide the next generation.
And he doesn't stop at teaching either. He offers straight up advice to those aspiring arbitrators out there. He's pretty blunt. He says international disputes, it's a fierce game. And resilience, he says, beats brilliance in the long run.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah.
It's not just about being smart. It's about having the grit to, weather the storms.
He encourages young lawyers to always be on the lookout for opportunities, find those great mentors, consider summer schools and LLM programs.
Solid recommendations.
Yeah.
Laying out a roadmap for success in the field.
He even says that getting into those elite programs is tougher than getting the funding. It's like, if you've got the drive and the talent, the money will follow.
That's an optimistic outlook for sure. Hopefully it encourages aspiring lawyers to aim high.
Finally, we get a peek into how Malhotra keeps a healthy work-life balance, which is something we can all relate to, right?
Oh, totally. It's that age-old struggle, finding that balance.
Especially in such a demanding field.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear his take on it.
He's really big on taking breaks, finding joy outside of work. No surprise here, he's an avid traveler.
Avid traveler.
Over 30 countries and 200 cities. He loves exploring new destinations with his wife, who is a former travel journalist, and with friends and family.
Travel's such a great way to broaden your horizons, gain new perspectives. It makes sense that he finds it rejuvenating.
He's also really into music. He loves discovering new artists and genres from all over the world. He actually describes music as, and I quote, a testament to the boundless possibilities of human expression.
That's beautiful. It sounds like he's cultivated a rich life outside of the legal world.
He gives credit where credit is due. He shouts out his team at Skywards Law for helping him maintain that balance. Specifically his associates, Ishan Chaturvedi, Arijit Sanyal, and Arun Dadikel.
It's always a team effort, surrounding yourself with talented, dedicated people who share your vision.
So we've heard about his journey, his insights, his advice. Now, what does all of this mean for you?
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, Malhotra's story is like a masterclass in how to build a successful international arbitration career. He deliberately sought out those diverse experiences, working with senior and junior counsel in India, then diving headfirst into the global scene in Singapore.
And it wasn't just about the law itself. He understood the importance of relationships, mentorship, having a global perspective.
He also embodies that power of never stopping learning, always pursuing new knowledge, new challenges, whether it's through advanced degrees, teaching, or simply staying up to date on the latest in the field.
And you know what really resonated with me? That whole idea of resilience being more important than brilliance.
It's a good reminder for all of us, right?
Absolutely. I mean, success in any field, especially one as demanding as international arbitration, takes more than just smarts.
You need that grit.
You need that determination to bounce back from setbacks.
And he backs it up with actionable advice, too. Seek out those opportunities. Find those mentors who can guide you.
He even shouts out some specific resources for staying on top of things in international arbitration.
Like what?
Things like the Paris Arbitration Academy, the Geneva Summer School.
Ah, the classic.
The Hague Academy of International Law. He's handing you a toolkit for success.
He is. Now, to be fair, he doesn't shy away from acknowledging that the international arbitration system, it isn't perfect. He recognizes its vulnerabilities.
Right.
That it's open to certain tactics, maybe even abuse. But he remains optimistic about its future, particularly in India.
I appreciate that balanced perspective. He's not, wearing rose-colored glasses.
Right.
But he sees the potential.
The potential for positive growth and development.
Exactly. And his observations about the differences in legal culture between India and Singapore were really insightful.
Yeah, he attributes Singapore's efficiency and discipline to its more rigorous legal training.
Makes you wonder, right? As international arbitration becomes even more globalized, what happens to those different approaches?
Will we see everyone converging on one way of doing things?
Or will those regional differences persist? It's a fascinating question.
It is. I mean, think about it. You're dealing with parties from all these different backgrounds, different legal systems,
Different cultures.
all coming together to try and resolve a dispute. How do you bridge those gaps?
It really highlights the complexity of this field. But one thing's crystal clear from Garv Malhotra's journey. International arbitration is dynamic.
It's demanding.
It's a place where legal expertise meets strategic thinking, cultural awareness, and a commitment to never stop learning. And for those willing to rise to the challenge, the opportunities seem limitless. So if you're out there thinking about a career in international arbitration, Take a page from Malhotra's playbook, seek out those diverse experiences, find those mentors who can guide you, and never stop learning. The world of international arbitration is waiting.